they end up leaving and walking down the street. Sorry, get this to come up. Okay, they come down the street and they end up here. Somebody with a camera ends up, and anyway, that's restarted. So anyway, they've left the area of the traffic stop. They've come down here by the park, and someone is going to film this now with an iPhone camera right over here. Then what we see is the first image. Now that they've arrived in the middle of this park, they're having a little bit of a grabbing match, and we're not sure what. The officer in his report says that Scott was trying to take his taser. We think he may have already been tased at this point and it didn't work, but we don't know. But in any event, two things of importance are that he has a hold of his arm here, but you see the right arm of the officer up here, and this is important. He's already going to his gun. That's his firearm on his right hip. He's already in a position to be trying to get that.
So the next image is in the park as well.
In image 2, they're at the same spot. He's let go of his arm, and what we think we see down here in between his feet, we're not sure, might be the taser on the ground, the empty, now used taser. We're not positive, but in any event, Scott now is getting ready to run. The officer again with his right hand back near his firearm on his right hip. Now he takes off running, and we can see at this point the officer is shooting. So he's firing shots, shooting at Scott's back. Now, one of the things that we've seen, in the initial arm hold that we have, is it doesn't appear that Scott is in any way attacking the officer. He's pulling maybe or resisting, but he's not actually threatening the officer or trying to wrestle or fight with the officer. But at some point he decides he's out of here, and he starts running down this sidewalk, and the officer is shooting him in the back, as it turns out. And as he gets further down, we can see what happens to him. Now we'll go to the video taken by a bystander with his smartphone, and later turned over to the family, who turned it then over to the media and to the police. So we can see he's running, and he goes to the ground. Now when we see Mr. Scott go to the ground, we see that it looks like his hands are bare, and he's just trying to break his fall in the grass. So again, as he comes over to here, his hands go out, he ends up in the grass.
And then finally, after the shooting, the officers, another officer or two shows up.
Right, and this is kind of important here because the officer, whatever happened at the car at the original traffic stop, both of those two left and ran into this park here. And what's really important is when we hear the police dispatch tapes, at what point does Slager, the officer, ask for help, call for a backup, or is it clear to his fellow officers that he's about to try to make an arrest on somebody who, whether he resists or fights at that point, we don't know, but he does run. And so at this point, though, we see within a minute or two that a second officer has arrived. So it does raise the question, why didn't he wait? If he had an officer that close, he should have heard it on the radio, what the estimated time of arrival was for his backup. Why doesn't he wait for the second officer to come?
All right, Tom, stay with us because I want to bring in the former federal prosecutor, Sonny Hostin, along with CNN anchor Don